just to have analysis of this. Paper 2 we can divide into following sections. At least let's say that there can be 4 sections, and if you see from 2013 to 22, so the pattern of question you can find from polity and constitutions almost half of the share, which is traditional aspect. So, and then followed by welfare social justice, which is a new addition in 2013. Almost they have 50 around 50 55, and then governance and civil service. So at times it is also 50 60, but gradually we find that 2018 onwards there is less share of governance and civil services, although it can increase any time. Means the pattern does not remain the same, so it can change like the way it has been changing. You can say 90 also and 100, 25 also. So this way, but this year if you find, so there is a time when governance they have only 10 questions, means one question in 10 markers, or let's say 15, but there may be a time then when they ask like say this type of. As far as IR is concerned, it has remained almost static, that 5 questions they ask from that. This year they have asked 4 questions, but again 50 marks. 2 questions in 15 marks, 2 questions in that way. So that is how we'll find. So IR remains the static share in this, which in terms of let's say that percentage if you take, so that is how it is representation, polity and constitution. Why? Because polity and constitution you can largely cover through Lakshmikant. Although still polity and constitution, so we have not given some new addition of topics here. There are some new addition of topics which are not covered by Lakshmikant, let's say regulation. So Lakshmikant may not cover some topics related to polity and constitution. It can be regulation related, some other such topics which we have, but it is covered in polity section. Then these are some other, let's say that micro analysis from different sections, how they ask, which we are not supposed to talk today here. And then as we have been analyzing a bit, let's see how there is a share in terms of conventional, contemporary and current, and then there is no any, let's say that it depends how you analyze. You can analyze on the basis of keeping last 10 years current also as contemporary, or let's say that keeping them in the part of current affairs. If you take 1 year, we try to analyze that in 1 year current development what question they have asked. So we find one question that's also not part of 1 year. This, so I2, U2 let's say, it was in 21 initiated, but still we can say I2, U2 as part of 1 year. As far as BIMSTEC and SARC, so they have been in talk since 2016 when SARC summit was not held. So that way let's say it will not be considered purely part of 1 year current development. So if you see 1 year current development, so one question we find, and other questions we can keep in the let's say 10 years current development, although there is a question which is even more than 10 years, that is called Right to Education Act 2009. So, but we can keep either in contemporary or conventional side, and we see that the paper is more contemporary oriented. If you keep this one, so it is more contemporary oriented rather than it is conventional, but we cannot segregate our preparation as conventional and contemporary, rather things are network and link in that fashion. But yes, current, if you see why we are saying, because when we are preparing for this, so we are moving more towards current affairs. Like our focus is more and more on current developments, and too much of current developments, let's say. We are in fact even occupied with the current developments. But if you see the nature of paper, so it may not necessarily be that current oriented inclined, rather the questions are current development based. Development, let's say, if you take BIMSTEC and SARC, so it has been in debate. If you are following current affairs, so it is in debate, or it has been in debate for 4 or 5 years. and then they have asked that question. Similarly, if they find environment related, geopolitical, they have linked about climate change. So again, it is a contemporary oriented development. So when we talk about the questions, why we are saying, because our preparation generally lacks here in contemporary orientation or this orientation. Rather we focus either on conventional, that is called, we say Lakshmikant focus, or let's say that we focus more on current, on which if you take in mains or even in prelims, so it has not that way direct relevance. Although yes, it does have indirect relevance. Indirect relevance ki many a time you write the facts, you write the examples, you need to write updated facts. So like say direct benefit transfer related question, and in direct benefit transfer related question, so then you have to write about the recent, let's say, development, most updated information. So it does demand, but your preparation, this should make your strategy, that your focus should be more on, no doubt, conventional plus contemporary development, you should be strong. And that is how we can do better in this paper. Then we have given, although again it depends how you see this, right? But this time we have given a bit of that simple question, doable question that we say generally, and difficult question. There is no any question which can be considered as extremely difficult. That was era of 2019, when they asked some questions as extremely difficult, which people in GS will fail to understand. Like say collaborative governance, the development discourse. So they used a term like collaborative governance, which a GS candidate is not aware what is, after all, what is collaborative governance. Although he will write more as cooperation and coordination. This. So he is not aware about collaborative governance. And similarly, let's say that a person, if you talk in terms of development discourse, again you are not aware what is development discourse. You are aware about welfare development schemes and programs. So 2019 paper we will consider is still among all papers as the most difficult paper. But now if you take this year, so it is as per our parameters, we think that most of the questions, means 54% questions we have categorized as something which you can do, although it is again we say UPSC paper, so it does not mean that you have studied and you go and without application of mind you can write answers. That situation will never come, you have to always apply a bit of mind. Let's say even first question. The first question we have kept in a doable category, but it does demand some set of good facts. This. And then some questions we have kept as simple question, because you know some questions, simple questions, largely simple questions are conventional question. Let's say vice president, question related to vice president, so that can be considered. Question related to another question you can say about president, etc. So there are some questions which we keep as simple question, although simple, doable. If you combine it, if we have 70% of the questions as we consider doable, you can do with certain level of efforts, so we will not say that it is a difficult paper, although yes, UPSC maintains certain standards of its paper. This you should know that it is not like something what it used to be before 2013. From that side we can say. So this year paper we cannot consider difficult. Yes, we will keep 2019 as the most difficult paper. Then we will take one by one, like discussion on this one by one, although it is a polity paper, we do not find, since paper is not as difficult, so discussion also does not have much, let's say that significance, because largely people can answer question, they can gather this fact, that fact. Some of the questions in that 20 questions demand, yes, a bit analysis. Otherwise, let's say that most of the questions we can consider that most of the questions you can yourself write, because literature is available, resource is available, materials are available, so you can write, it is not as challenging. Yes, the challenge always remains whether you write the relevant things or not. What relevant things you write? Do you write a relevant thing? So let's take that now one by one, that this we will go, how we generally follow, although since we start having discussion in details, it takes time and we will not be able to finish, as we say that it will take almost 4 hours. But then yesterday we had our ethics paper discussion. I wanted to keep it 3 hours, but still it went on, let's say 3 hours plus. And so today I don't want to don't intend to go into that detail. So some questions where analysis is needed, I will go tell about a bit detail. Otherwise, you read through model answer also, and they are basics. We can simply pass that. So this way. So this question, if you take first, that it is the most significant achievement of modern law in India. If you see analysis, if you take before we take, so paper this time, now if you see the paper, although they have reminded in past also that it is, there can hardly be any demarcation of clear line between first paper, second paper, third paper, and at times fourth paper. Some questions can be asked anywhere. This, so you wonder this how, that is called intersectoral knowledge. Like say in ethics paper we found 3 questions related to digitalization, e-governance, digitalization, and let's say whistleblowing law also, whistleblowing related question also. So they were largely paper second type, but deliberately we are trying to write in paper 4. Similarly, if you take, they have this time mixed with environment related, although they have asked also Green Tribunal in past. Environment related, inflation related, and climate change related. If you take 3 things which are not necessarily part of paper 1, paper second. So climate change, although they are trying to link with geopolitical. So that question, the 20th question, is more suitable for paper 1 rather than paper second, because geopolitical related question they have asked in paper 1. Then inflation and unemployment, it is more about paper 3. So this way, but since you have knowledge in that, that is how there is also, we can say, means there is no that distinctive nature of what we say polity, rather there is convergence, and when there is convergence, so the questions are also being asked in that fashion. This we can consider anyhow. Basically it is saying that the constitutionalization of environment problems by Supreme Court discuss the statement with health of relevant case laws. Now what they have done, as if it is a question in law as optional, case laws. Right. So this time they have asked 2 times this term, case laws. This, it is here at I think at one more place. So they have asked this. Now a candidate may feel, but case law means what? This important cases, the important cases which Supreme Court has given its judgment. One most important case is called MC Mehta case. This. Now, so if you go, what people will write, what should be the structure? So, before I show anything, so first a question. So you can write any introduction. Now, then a person should write about constitutional provisions, related to environment. This, then you should write about Supreme Court powers, especially as guardian, interpreter. This, then you should write how there is institutionalization. How there is constitutionalization. Then you should write important cases. Important cases. No, and one most important case is MC Mehta case. No. So people may not have problem till then. Most of the people will be able to write this. No, there can be a bit of difference here, whether I guess obviously people will write Article 21 and its, let's say, innovative interpretation, Article 48A, 51 rate G, so that, let's say, aspect. So certainly people are habituated in GS to write articles, so I know that they will write that. They will not leave that. Then a bit of it is not needed, but since it is related to Supreme Court, so since it is the guardian that, and this should be written. Now people will also know about MC Mehta case. Most of the people know that MC Mehta case. Plus recent cases also people know. No. Recent cases also you know that. There are several cases. Not aware. So Niyamgiri Hill, Aravali, Lavasa City, Bharat 4 related, graded action plan, crackers ban. These are all recent cases. So this way we can consider that there are cases. Again we will tell you that the problem will not be, people will write the cases. This. And through this Supreme Court has tried to link these things. So these things it has tried to link with Article 21, this protection of environment, right to life, right to safe environment, livelihood and protection of environment. So these things have been linked. In various such judgments it has tried to interpret and linked with right to life of people. This. So that way we can say this. But then do we need to write thereafter anything else? Right. So whether we need to write thereafter also something. Yes. No, it is already positive. Yes, you can write it has resulted into, yes? Yes. So basically that point people will miss. Right. People will be able to write till that, whatever they are writing. Right. Thereafter people will largely miss this, since it is command call discuss. Whenever there is a command call discuss, it demands that after writing this, you should write some weaknesses. Criticisms. Means you should write some other side. This. And the other side is, it's about, first thing is a judicial intervention. Right. So there is overreach also and overactivism also. It results into overreach, overactivism, and it is not judiciary which should solve the problems of environmental governance. Rather, the environmental governance solution should come from first two organs of the state. When judiciary intervenes, it results into legality and complexity, and it may result into dragging of the case, and that may result into policy paralysis. This, like for 20 years we have Arauli case, and in Niyamgiri Hill judicial intervention has resulted into cancellation of Vedant and POSCO, let's say that contracts, and that has affected investment. So judicial solution, environmental governance is very different, it demands certain level of policy expertise which judiciary lacks, hence it should have judicial restraints. This. Then another anomaly has been found, the trade-off between protection of environment and social justice. So at the cost of protection of environment, social justice is affected. Right. With one hand it gives social justice, with another hand it takes away social justice. Right. So you can find what have Khedi Gaon and removal, it is the, let's say that ki most populated village which have been removed to protect environment. But it affects social justice. Because people got settled, they have bought, they have, let's say that, they have ration card, they have voter ID, and they got settled. Then tomorrow we decided, you know, it is harm to environment. This. So that is how, let's say that, means judiciary should protect environment, but at the cost, at the same time, it should also provide solution to problems of social justice. Right. Because right to livelihood is also part of right to life. This. And such solutions should come largely through the first two organs. Right. Rather than judiciary, judiciary should have limitations in terms of more interpretation of law rather than instituting by interpretation policy and law making. That is how towards the end you have to write this. So that aspect people will not write. So since it was first question, although I don't intend to go by this, but we will take help of that is how people can write it. So MC Mehta case, then we have added some important, let's say. We will provide you, although we are still in process of model answer preparation, it is not yet complete, but yes, we are using it. These are some major cases also which a person can mention. Right. No need to go in details of that. That's why then we have tried to write the other side is this, what has happened. Then let's say that this, how it is overactivism, then we can conclude by this way. So that is what, let's say, the answer could have been. Then let's take the next. It is a basic question. So this is how we will say it as a simple question. Right. The simple question is that you can write about this Article 19. In Article 19, basically it is related to D, E, this is all fine, which is related to free movement and residence of people. That can be written. Then you can link with how there is, let's say that restriction. So there can be restriction on free movement of people on the grounds of general public interest, scheduled tribe, or some exceptions, let's say that we have in the constitution, this aspect, and that is how let's say it is. Then we can write also why it is not absolute, because no fundamental right is absolute. All fundamental rights are subject to regulation by state. That's why Article 19 Clause 2 imposes restriction on Article 19 Clause 1. This way we can say this. However, towards end when you conclude blah blah things, so towards end you should tell that restriction is not the most important aspect, rather giving rights are the most important aspect. So it should not be a matter of maintaining balance between exercise of freedom and restriction. Fundamental rights are known for giving rights rather than restricting rights. Restricting rights should be taken more as an exception. Only in exception situation rights are restricted. Right. Rather than we have to maintain a balance between both. So that aspect can also be written while writing this. So it is just a basic aspect, you can see that. Then this question demands a bit of analysis, let's say when you write, to what extent in your opinion has the decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at grassroots level? Now it is a subjective question. And now here the quality will differ person to person. If you take this first B question, largely people will be able, simple question, they know Article 19.1, they know Article 19.2, and they know some cases they can balance it. In first also people will be able to write it, because they know that paper 3 also you know that. So and some people also know that there is judicial overreach, so they will also write towards end to balance it. So largely we can find it that people will be able to write first question, second question with more or less same degree, but Now let's say कि this governance landscape at grassroots level, how much it has changed. Right. So how you are going to depict it? To what extent you are going to depict it? Right. This. So that will show your beauty of answer. This, and that people will differ as per as availability of information. No, as per availability of information, right? Let me first give you information, then we talk. So there is Yojana, no. Which Yojana it is? 2021, June. It is June. Yojana, I guess it is June or November. Anyhow, 2021. Right. It is November, I guess, 2021. It is on Panchayati Raj institution. This. So those people who have read that Yojana, they will be able to depict this much better. This, because they can write some good and updated fact. They will be able to write some good and updated facts. And those who are not, they have not read, because that Yojana only provides that information. Right. That's why Yojana has its own relevance, right? That information you cannot get elsewhere. Right. Exactly what it depicts. Now those who will not, those who do not know, they will be writing 5-10 years back facts. Right. That will be the difference, and that is how it will show how better it is. Anyhow, that's why let's say then decentralization of power, how you depict it in such questions. So in what your opinion, decentralization of power, so how we'll write it? So let's answer this question. It is first, I guess it is third question. So we can write any introduction. Then about decentralization. Right. Then brief evolution. Right. Then how it has changed. So you can write about the structural aspect. You can write about functional aspect, participation, and plus facts. This, and after writing this, then write weaknesses. Right, then, and so way forward. This. So that way we can structure it when we have to write. Now, what people will do? They will not write it. Evolution. They don't believe in evolution. Right. So we believe in revolution, not in evolution. So people will directly start writing 73rd and 74th. They will directly start writing this. And then they will write some facts. They may know some facts, they will write some facts. This. but certainly not what Yojana that says, November 2021. Then weaknesses, accordingly, let's say weaknesses also, no need to write since it is short answer, so you cannot write so many points. But some important facts can be written in terms of how governance, decentralization, so whether decentralization and governance at local level, how much it is a reality. This is what you have to write. So this, then what we can further do, what more can be done, this. So that is how it is. It is an indirect question on, we can say that, decentralized, it is an indirect question on PRI. This. Since they are using the term grassroots, the grassroots we do not talk about urban local bodies. So another, let's say I will tell you that a candidate, if he does not care, he would end up writing also urban local bodies, local government. Right. But grassroots here it makes clear that it is for largely indirect question on Panchayati Raj institution. This first. Second is that regularly since 2013 they have asked question on Panchayati Raj institution. This you should also know. So it is an obvious question also. People have already, they do have practice of writing local government since regularly question has been asked. The only defining factor will be this. Generally, we know, we have experience, people do not write evolutions. They directly start writing. Plus, the difference will be more like how better facts you have. This. So, simple, let's say, any introduction can be written. That can be, let's say, decentralizes. Decentralization was initiated just after independence on the recommendations of Balwant Rai Mehta Committee. In the outset itself you write it. This. So that can be introduction. Then you can say that decentralization. This decentralization is started on failure of community development program 1952, but because it was centralized, and since then efforts have been made. So 1958, right, first Panchayati Raj institution established, and then finally let's say that is 73rd, 74th Amendment Act. This. Then you should write about 73rd. It tries to see major facts we cannot write. Short means so many facts we cannot write. So you need to write some of the important things. So this, it created uniform structure. No. Uniform structure, defined subject, that is called schedule 11, this 29 subjects, a 3-tier structure, three-tier structure, 33% reservation for women, and Gram Sabha as embodiment of grassroots democracy. This. After this, now decentralized governance. How decentralized governance happening? This fact you have to write. Decentralized governance means first, almost all states have gone for 4th round and 5th round of elections. This. Next, 23 states have constituted district planning committee. Then Manrega. sorry. And social audit, this done by Gram Sabha, this. Then that is how we were saying about 2.5 lakh panchayats. Right. Means basically we have 2.6 lakh almost, given the fact lakh panchayats, of which 95% have submitted village development plan. It is this Yojana which talks about Yojana 2021. It talks 95% of Gram Panchayats have submitted village development plan to Ministry of Panchayati Raj. And these plans are where? On the portal of e-Gram Sabha. Right. And government has e-Panchayat. Under e-Panchayat, it is governance, e-governance, governance, transparency, accountability. Since question is using the term governance, so we should not only write merely Panchayati Raj institutions, we should relate. The social audit is also related to governance. Planning and development also related to governance. Under e-Panchayat, we have, this is called Sangram. Sangram by Maharashtra. And Sakala by Karnataka. They are successful ventures of delivery of services. What? Certifications, various types of documentation, service delivery, birth certificate, death certificate, ration card, other things will find. So these deliveries, etc. So it is happening. So these are some very refined facts which we don't expect he will write. Right. But yes, this is what, let's say, we were expected to write in terms of how we will prove it. So we don't have to write merely these information, rather we have to tell that. Writing after these facts, then you can give an analysis. One paragraph analysis you should give so that the answer does not become merely information. This you should always know. If you write only like this, answer is information. The analysis should be written. What analysis? Although decentralization started since 50s, but in actual practice, it got constitutionalized by 73rd Amendment Act. And since it established institutional structure and made role and functions clear, hence it has become basis, means that amendment has become basis as it is a landmark development, basis for decentralized governance. That not only there is devolution of powers, but also governments are trying to root development schemes and programs through Panchayati Raj institutions. Right. Governments have also tried to shift powers from administration to local bodies, like say Panchayati Raj institution. For instance, Gram Sabha identifies 50% of beneficiaries under Manrega, and it has power to carry out social audit. And there is also a social audit mechanism. This. Hence, we can find at grassroots level how there has been decentralized governance. In fact, we can find how this since 2000, let's say 15-16, so out of 2.6 lakhs, let's say panchayats, 95% have submitted also village development plan. In fact, there is also a separate dedicated Ministry of Panchayati Raj institution. This. Hence, we can say that there has been decentralized governance. That is how the positive side you write. However, then this is how the negative side you will say. So, negative side, this weaknesses, let's say. So, negative side you should write. So, then you should tell that, however, even if such developments have happened, even Ministry of Panchayati Raj has recognized this, that even if 95% panchayats are submitting village development plan, but their actual operationalization may not be happening. Means actual practice, there may not be in practice. Right. Plan has been made, but it may not be in practice. Plus, we say that there is decentralized, but it is found that Panchayati Raj institutions have been lacking 3Fs: function, functionary, finance. Or if you use 2020 question, functionality. So, the question says the most important aspect or most important weakness of decentralized governance is functionality. That if functionally they lack capacity to deliver as they have not been empowered. Right. Be real empowerment. And for real empowerment, we should bring recommendations of ARC second, Punchi Commission, even let's say Panchayati Raj Minister. So, they have given recommendation ki how we should devolve power. The 29 subjects, the power should be devolved and there should be self-governance to idealize Gram Swaraj, and self-governance demand autonomy. There should be greater autonomy to take decision rather than becoming merely an institution to implement decision taken by union and states. Right. That's why Punchi Commission says the idea has been of self-sufficiency, not self-governance. So, we need to empower, and that is how Punchi Commission recommends. And even we need to follow ARC's second principle of subsidiarity. That can be conclusive. This is what we can say. So, that is how it should have been answered. So, the questions will tell which demand, let's say, basically we will say that what we say, sorry to say, it is some different terminologies, but we say that it is a spineless question, a question which lacks a spine. You have to give a spine. Structuring, because you have to structure, then you have to write content. There is subjectivity, who is going to write how much. Now we have ended with ARC second, Punchi Commission, principle of subsidiarity. A person can end with something else, that also. Then people have habit of writing secondary type of content related to grassroots development. They will write other schemes and programs rather than this. That also we find. So that should not happen. Yes.
The second ARC even realizes it, saying that the devolution has been in form, not in substance.
Yes. So there are so many things to write, but again the question is, it is a short answer, so that's why we can keep it. But there are so many, depend if it is a 15-mark question, there are many other facts you can write. Right, this related to, but since it is a short answer, so keep it to that. Then let's say it is a simple question they have asked. That is how, no. So, maintaining, many times a simple question is asked, it can be challenging for people to write. So, what to write, isn't it? Basic you can write, discuss the role and functions of Vice President. So, as chairperson of Rajya Sabha. So, you can start with writing since basic, isn't it? Basic it is, so you can start from this, you can say that. Recently Vice President is, recent election has happened, you can start, we have linked 63rd. Some articles you can write, ex officio chairperson you can write. Then try to link with some developments type of thing that they take, Vice President is basically, how they have played important role as a chairperson. They play important role as a, after writing basics of chairperson, election, role, functions, what are their role and functions. Then write the significance also. Significance is that Rajya Sabha also plays important role. Rajya Sabha is not considered as second house, rather it is second, let's say it is second house, rather it is secondary. It is not a secondary house, rather it is a second house. So let's say that Rajya Sabha has equal power except in financial and let's say financial matters like say money bill. So debate and discussion, passing of amendment bills, then chairpersons of let's say parliamentary standing committee. So 8 parliamentary standing committee chairperson appointed by Rajya Sabha chairperson. This, so he himself is also a member of business rules committee. So that way you can write some significance even if it is a basic question, right? Then you can also write a bit of criticism also, right? Even if he is ex officio chairperson and he is expected to maintain the decorum of the Rajya Sabha, but we find that Rajya Sabha has not been able to maintain a distinction from Lok Sabha, which is elected house, directly elected house. Even in Rajya Sabha also you find pandemonium and let's say that decline in quality of debate and discussion and often disruptions. This, so a bit of that. Then you can end with by writing some positive things. Vice President presently so also has recommended about 15 points reforms how to make Parliament run effectively. Venkaiah Naidu gave 15 points reforms including code of ethics for members of Parliament. So that way means we can bring some live in answer, means some let's say that quality in answer by linking with this, although the basics should not be compromised when you write it. Then again let's say that expected question, right? It was expected since it was enacted. This, so I think people will not find any challenge in writing this. Can we say this? So so you can start with the let's say context, how recently it has been added. So this should be written. The context, when you deal with any current related development. So that current related development should be, we can start with context. Right. The recently by 102nd Amendment Act, right, National Backward Class Commission, which was a statutory body, has been replaced by a constitutional body. A simple introduction. So that can be introduction. Right. Then you can write some basics, provisions, basics. What basics? The basics you can compare statutory body, right. So National Backward Class Commission as a statutory body and as constitutional body. So what was its role and function? And what is role and function? This. Yes. Yes, in answer also. Why not you cannot write it in answer? It is saying the shift now, how it has happened. Question itself, question is not saying to write difference. But question is saying how transformation has happened. The transformation you cannot write without, unless you compare a bit, isn't it? Unless we compare what this was and what this is. This. So, it will make the picture clear there. This, since it is also a short answer. Right, this way. Even if you do not intend to write, तो आपको ये लिखना ही पड़ेगा. First you will write this, then you will write this. Right. It's better to write parallel so that there is greater visibility and presentation, better presentation. This way. So, then basically let's say what is transformation? What is the difference? I guess you know that what are the differences. Right. No. Right. Not aware. Quantitative, for the sake of writing point, statutory body, constitutional body. Its role was limited to only give advice to the government for including OBC, right, means any other new category of backward class in OBC. And that advice given by the commission was considered mandatory, means consultation to the commission was mandatory. This commission was created in the aftermath of Indira Sahni case, in which Supreme Court stated for creation of a commission. That is how it is. Now, why we need to create this commission? So then we have 4 categories, let's say, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC and general category. We have also, let's say, 2 commissions, scheduled caste commission, scheduled tribe commission, and they are constitutional bodies. Right? Article 338, no. So, you will find that. So, they are constitutional bodies. When they are constitutional bodies, so they deal with scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, not only about inclusion of new list, new category, but they deal with grievance redressal. They have grievance redressal. Then they deal with how to bring betterment and advancement of that section. And they give advice to the government and submit annual report. Right. Therefore, it was needed that OBC should also, a commission which is related to OBC should also become right, at par with scheduled caste commission and scheduled tribe commission. Because merely including in list a new category will not address the problems, broader aspect of other backward classes. Right. And that's why by making it constitutional, the government has not made it only constitutional, rather it has enhanced its stature, right? And now it is at par with scheduled caste and scheduled tribe commission, and hence it has also power of civil court. It has power of civil court. It can summon, enforce summon. It can redress grievances. It will work for advancement, recommend how we can bring advancement, social advancement of other backward classes, redress grievances, submit annual report to the government. So that is how its role and functions have become now at par with scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. That is called transformational role. So there has been the role has been transformed, right? Merely playing an institution to give list of new category, to have a broader role and functions for social and educational advancement of other backward classes. That is how you have to write on this. Now, thereafter, so it has transformed, still answer does not end. That, although most of the people will end their answers, again it is saying discuss. Right? Question is saying discuss. So you will write a bit of weaknesses and then we will conclude. So we will write weaknesses and then we will conclude. Weaknesses that the status of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe commission, although let's say they are constitutional, but it is not very encouraging. That they have not been very successful in redressing the grievances of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. This. Why generally? Because of lack of institutional capacity, lack of autonomy and independence. Right. This. And lack of their approach to reach out to people. People reach out to them rather than they reaching out to this. So that is what the problems that we find. Hence, let's say that this commission should not, let's say that become, let's say like any other commission. Rather, it should carry out, let's say, resourcefulness, and it should be given needed independence, autonomy, so that it becomes more proactive rather than it is reactive. That should be. Then here, what is left to conclude? We need to move towards grievance redressal to equal opportunity and justice, the way it is followed in other countries. Other countries follow how to promote equal opportunity, right? Rather than to give merely reservation. So they try to create a level playing field for all, and they are very proactive. Like say if you take UK, if you take US, if you take South Africa, in fact their commission name is also Equal Opportunity Commission. Right. So we need to move towards that global standard where commissions can become more proactive and they deal with the broader aspect of discrimination rather than only discrimination related to job. Right. This, and that is how we can conclude by this. We will not write other things, it will be thoda aur zyada ho jayega wo. Right. But basically let me tell, right, already we have taught or we teach that way. Tomorrow we expect a question on Equal Opportunity Commission. This you should know. Already they have asked a question on NHRC and National Commission of Women combined, merging them. Why there should be a women commission? Right. It is itself a discrimination. Right. So you have a separate women commission. So basically what we are trying to do, let's say balkanization. Let's say we have, let's say, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Right. Then we have NHRC, National Commission for, there are 3 commissions for human rights protection. Right. This. Next time we expect a question on this because they have asked this. It's just a matter of time. So because backward class also asked, scheduled caste commission also asked. So now next time it is child right commission. Now let's say that this. Now you have scheduled caste commission, scheduled tribe commission, OBC कमीशन, और अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट को माने तो वो भी बोलेगा कि EWS का भी कमीशन बनाओ, isn't it? On that pattern, who will establish that you are EWS? Because you do not have any commission. So that happened in case of OBC. It told that you constitute OBC commission. The case is sub judice, let's say. So basically, how many commissions you have? And all are dealing with one thing, right? Discrimination. This discrimination you convert into equal opportunity. Equal opportunity is a broader concept in any walk of life, public, private, both. As of now, they don't have jurisdiction on private sector. Right, because there is no reservation in private sector. But an equal opportunity commission in US will have jurisdiction on any organization. Because there cannot be discrimination anywhere. Right. Even in taking house on rent, there should not be discrimination. Equal opportunity in all walk of life. So a time will come that you will have to merge them. Right. And if you do not merge them, at least merge them and create one. And merge them to create one. After all, we have minimum government, maximum governance. So that is how it is taught. But this question, it will be a bit more, no need to write. But you should have in mind this. Today or tomorrow, because why to have so many commissions? And there is also a problem. Scheduled caste in one state is OBC in another state. Who will deal that? How will deal that? So that becomes also a problem. So that's why if you have a one major commission, idea should have been done to merge them and create one commission. Right. So that you can deal OBC, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. This. Or do you want to always maintain scheduled tribe as scheduled tribe, scheduled caste as scheduled caste, OBC as OBC? Right. So what is the benefit of reservation? Means, are we supposed to always maintain in perpetuity that a scheduled tribe should always be known as scheduled tribe? Right. Or once there is advancement, so he should become equal. Why we need to maintain that distinctiveness? This. But anyhow, we will not go into this debate. Let's finish that. Right. So that is what we can consider this question. So yes, a bit people will be able to write this. Depends how you are able to write this one. Right. This. But we should not end here itself. A bit of weakness should have been written. That is how we can say this. So let's take next. Yes. Yes.
Should not, as NCDC has been constitutionalized, should not National Commission on Minorities and National Commission on Women should be constitutionalized just to give them more teeth?
No. Constitutionalization, let's say NHRC is not a constitutional body. It is a statutory body. So similarly, Human Rights Commission related to women or child rights, so no need. As far as Minority Commission is concerned, so there's that you can say. Right. Minority Commission, the way you have a language commission also, language body we have. Language related body is constituted. So minority you can tell, but minority as a term we do not recognize in our constitution again. Right. So it does not make strong sense. Again, it is not a question whether you make it statutory or constitutional. The stature of NHRC is better than a stature of Scheduled Caste Scheduled Tribe Commission. You should know that. Right. So it does not matter what you are making. It matters your intention, whether you empower them. So if you take Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe, OBC Commission, things are not clear. Member selection, appointment, tenure, this removal condition. What are removal conditions? President, government will decide. So clarity should be there. You should have a committee. So there should be a selection committee. Members' qualifications should be defined. They have security of tenure. Grounds of removal should be clearly mentioned. The way we mention in case of NHRC, CVC and others, then there will be greater transparency. But if you read about Scheduled Caste Commission, Scheduled Tribe Commission, OBC, so these things are not very clearly mentioned. Right. This mention is that President will appoint. That is how you have to have more transparency. Those things we should give more emphasis rather than, let's say, constitutionalization or statutory. That should not be the point. So this should be the view. So a current question, but again not exactly, but yes. There are 2-3 questions. They are from immediate current aspect, Gati Shakti. And then they have linked with private sector. This question we keep it on a bit difficult side because it is talking to link with private sector. This. Now, Gati Shakti, let's say that yes, how people study, they may have studied from more of the GS3 perspective. But since it is, we do not expect that they will ask, let's say that way in paper second. Right? But yes, let's say it is also related to collaborative governance basically. This is Gati Shakti is an example of collaborative governance. Right. So we have asked elsewhere in optional, but anyhow. Now the question, first half answer or almost 2/3 of the answer will remain, you write the Gati Shakti, about Gati Shakti, its provisions, its features, its significance. That is how it should be written. Right. The basics you may have read, that way you can see that. So this is how some basics are written, like it is 2021, then 100 lakh crore national master plan it is, then in the 11 industrial corridor, fixed target to achieve all these things, blah, blah. It is infrastructure sector, it is 16 ministry department, let's say, so 16 ministry departments, affairs related to road, transportation, railway, etc. They have been brought under one portal. It is basically a portal, right, on which there will be cooperation and coordination among them to expedite the project processes so that there is no delay in execution. That is how it's Gati Shakti, this you can say. The giving momentum, its name itself. So how to give momentum? Basically government has identified that how in road sector, railway sector, the projects are under somehow, let's say they face impediments. They have been facing impediments and those impediments are resulting into delay results into lack of, let's say, even investment loss is also happening. So government has created a portal through which they will cooperate and coordinate. Now a committee of secretaries of those departments is headed by cabinet secretary. Then what government has done is that under that several other committees will be constituted. So since these things are, let's say, not mentioned here, so Gati Shakti, let's say, it will formulate different committees. Groups, we can say that. Group. And the group will be given task to take decision. This group will take help of all walk of life people, right? National, international, expertise, this in public, private, this. So it is a kind of freedom they have been given. Gati Shakti gives autonomy to those groups which are constituted under particular, either it is a minister, either under a secretary or under, let's say, one expert member, and they will be given autonomy to take decision related to the particular task, let's say project. So they have, let's say, that freedom to take a decision. And that will bring collaboration also, plus expedite the process of decision making. And since it is related to infrastructure, so since it is related to infrastructure, so that is how private sector role comes. The private sector role comes, one, in case of, we were writing in groups in terms of, let's say, think tank expertise. There, think tank expertise, right, providing, let's say, inputs. This, now infrastructure, so here it is investment, right, technology, this cooperation, that is called public-private partnership, this. So this way we can link with private sector. Private sector, unless private sector cooperate with government, because industrial corridor, different industrial corridor government has linked, defense production has been linked, manufacturing has been linked with this. So then similarly we have linked with MSME sector, let's say government e-marketplace, it has been linked. The government is trying to link with all those, let's say that sectors which will promote, let's say that momentum. So there the role of private sector is as a project developer, investor, providing technological input. So unless there is close cooperation with private sector, so this scheme means this initiative will not be successful. One example that we can further propagate is public-private partnership. The government will have to address the problems related to public-private partnership, customize public-private partnership. Nowadays it is a time of customized public-private partnership. Customized public-private partnership we say as a sector-specific and area-specific, you can say public-private partnership. So these things will result into greater participation of private sector, and that will, let's say that help in success of this. So this is how the question, and you can focus on this, but this is not end of answer. It is saying this, discuss. This is how to know. Thereafter you have to write, it is not merely cooperation of private sector. It is also about cooperation between ministry departments. Right. 16 ministry departments. So basically ministry departments, so discuss part you should write. So when we write this discuss part, that is how we write here. So 16 ministry departments, they will have to cooperate. As of now, let's say ministry department, this, it is 16, it is first. So as of now, the ministry departments, let's say they operate with, it is called silo mentality. This article 1 written by Amod Kant, the CEO of Niti Aayog. Right. He writes in his article that they have silo mentality. Silo mentality means they look within department, departmental mentality, they do not look beyond department. So unless we break this silo mentality, right, Gati Shakti coordination will also not happen. So it is not a matter of private coordination and cooperation. It is also a matter whether the departments are going to work together. Right. Breaking the traditional silo mentality. That should be towards end. However, then to should write Gati Shakti is one such radical initiative by the government, a bold initiative by the government to promote collaborative governance. Since already they have used the term collaborative governance, so we can end with this collaborative governance. And that way we can write this answer. Then,
Sir, I have a doubt.
yes.
Is collaborative just cooperative? Or
No. Cooperative नहीं होता है. See, cooperation किसी भी entity के बीच हो सकता है, A plus B. They can cooperate. It is a simple act. It is simple. Right. Largely cooperation happen at your equal level. This, let's say कि ministry, one ministry, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Commerce, they can cooperate. It is different. Collaborative is, if you talk कि there was collaborative in 50s, it will not be applicable. If you talk there was collaboration in 90s, it is not applicable. Collaborative is applicable now. How? So it is like this. Let's take example, how it is happening. So there are 16 ministry departments. They will have to cooperate. they will have to cooperate among themselves. Right. Then they will have to cooperate with private, and then they will have to cooperate with local. Project is implemented. In part, there will be state. Basically, collaborative becomes like this: hierarchical, horizontal, and diagonal. Right. So when there is something hierarchical, horizontal, and diagonal, it becomes collaborative. Collaborative means multi-level cooperation and coordination. Right. So collaborative is a very broad term. Right. Cooperation is a very simple term. So nowadays we have multi-level. Right. Multi-level cooperation. That's why the term collaborative governance has come. Like aspirational districts, same thing will happen. Ministry of Rural Development, Niti Aayog, TIS, Melinda Gates Foundation, state governments, districts. This, it is collaborative governance. Right. I guess it is. So next question is disability law. So for the second time, I guess they are asking. Right. So basically, you will find that such questions are repeated. So it is a basic question. No. Okay, it is gone there. It is a basic question, so you can write from this. We will not. So you can see that basic provisions you have to write. What are the basic provisions? Those basic provisions of the law should be written. That is how type of disability is defined, rights, this guardianship, all penalties, etc. Then some facts are there. We have said that number of disabled people in our country, this and that. Then some negative we have to write. How basically it is about attitude or behavioral aspect. There are, let's say, some cases we have mentioned, like basically Ravindra Kumar Dhariwal case. Supreme Court, let's say, one such this implies it gave a judgment. Then simply this also disability recruitment they were not included, so then it was overruled in this case also. Then some program related things have been initiated. We should try to further take steps. Then we say moral regime. There should be moral regime rather than legal regime. Right. Means basically, let's say the idea is that merely passing a law will not result in changing the mindset. Many times it is about mindset. People, those who are well, so we let's say that consider them as themselves responsible for that status. Right. Those who are disabled, so we think that they are themselves responsible. Hence, you can find that nook and corner, gully, mohalla, etc., bus, transportation, railway, wherever, let's say that we do not have respect for them. This, and therefore, still we do not have, we have tried to have transportation, this disabled transportation. Transportation should be disabled friendly, be it, let's say, civil aviation, railway, bus transportation. So they have tried to make it disabled friendly. So steps have been taken by the government, but still overall attitude of even the government departments will find that it has not been still very proactive. And that is how the question is saying we should bring more attitudinal changes, which can be done by the way, let's say you can have workshop, you can sensitize, you can bring attitudinal training to them. So this way, this is how it is about moral regime. And that is how we should be writing on this. Then direct benefit scheme questions, it says that again we can keep it as a simple question. But then let's say that it is saying it has limitations. So we will not keep it as a simple question. but it is not a difficult question also. So you write first part of the answer is basics, direct benefit transfer. This, since it is old schemes, we don't know to what extent people will be prepared on direct benefit transfer. See, there are so many schemes. Now, generally in test papers, we don't feel motivated to ask such schemes, no? Because schemes asking, you don't know which scheme they will ask. At times they ask, at times they do not ask. So either a scheme question become very simple or it becomes very difficult. This, but then they have their own, let's say that legitimacy and their way of asking. That is how, let's say, the basics should be written, how it was initiated first, pilot basis in 43 districts, then it was extended. Finally, it has been linked to this JAM Trinity, then a direct benefit transfer under JAM Trinity, the schemes and programs. Major schemes and programs covered are PAHAL, Manrega, National Social Assistance Program, etc. Fine. This, thereafter, let's say. So, although a candidate may not draw this, but since we are showing how, let's say, that it is applied, so this is how it is applied in this way. Finally, let's say in account money is transferred. In the process, you should know that Aadhaar is also linked, bank account is also linked, this and a scheme is also linked. The three things are linked: a scheme, Aadhaar, database of beneficiary, and bank account. This. Then we have shown, since we have been teaching this for a long time in GS, let's say. So basically, this was given by economic survey. Again, 2019, I feel, let's say it is 2018-19. Before COVID, economic survey, it gave this. It is direct benefit transfer. This you can write in case of what we say e-governance also, because direct benefit transfer is also part of e-governance, although this year they have not asked. This is also an example of e-governance, right? And this is also an example of direct benefit transfer. See, what direct benefit transfer has done? In past, there used to be, let's say, transfer of funds. First, it is going to state, center to state, state to district to block, then Gram Panchayat. Now it directly reaches from center to the client, the beneficiary. So the process has been scuttled. This you can say. So it is expedited, it is highly efficient. That has happened. So this can be mentioned. Anyhow, then what limitations we can write? Other things we can write, this was the one important aspect, but what limitations can be written? Right. What limitations we can write?
It bypasses the local government and other institutions.
Yes.
It hinges upon decentralization.
Yes. See, direct benefit transfer, first limitation is it cannot be implemented for all schemes and programs. The dynamic nature of thing. It can be implemented to those schemes and programs which are recurring in nature. This. Second thing is that technology. It is more of a technological solution. And when it is a technological solution, so if ghost lists are there, fake data you have not eliminated, the benefits will reach out to right, those who are not eligible. This third aspect is that it cannot end corruption in absolute sense. How? West Bengal corruption, Manrega. We have made a case study in our test program. In West Bengal, Manrega corruption has happened and central government has stopped fund release under Manrega. Right. This is just recent news. How corruption is happening? So those who are local panchayat members and bank, they have the nexus, and they take away the cards and let's say the account holders, and they do not give them money. Means they do not let the money go in the account of, and it is going in the account, they do not let the beneficiary take the money. Right. Yes, this you can say. So that way, let's say, plus how the corruption is happening, projects which have been not actually implemented, but they have been forged as a document ki project implemented, and then it has been submitted as a bill that ki this is how the project has been completed, and then fund they are seeking to be released. This you can say. So direct benefit transfer, yes, it minimizes corruption. It results into direct benefit, but at the same time it has its own limitation, the way a technology has limitation. This means to deal against corruption, we have to still take some other measures, including greater transparency and accountability. Right. DBT may not alone be able to address the problems and challenges of corruption. That is how the limitations we can talk. Then towards end we have given you some, this is how this direct benefit transfer you can end, even if let's say it has some limitations, but it has still let's say overwhelming benefits. Rather it has a transformative benefit, as we mentioned yesterday about Manrega, how it has transformative benefit, that minimize the average wage payment. The average wage payment, it can be 3 months in past, now it has become 15 days. Plus let's say this is a fact most updated, let's say till March 31, 2021, we have been able to save, government has been able to save 2.22 lakh crore due to DBT. Right. In first phase we were able to save 44. This, how it is able to save? It is able to eliminate fake list. It is able to stop leakage, diversion. So basically e-governance also result into minimizing cost delivery, right? Cost of service delivery. You should know that e-governance results into minimization of delivery of cost, right? And it is best example ki how it has, government has been saving also, and that is how we can say the benefit. That is how towards that you can end about this. Yes.
Does it not hit upon the foundation of local self-government because they feel bypassed and the weakens the foundation of local self-government?
Yes, we're saying.
Sir, DBT doesn't it weakens the foundation of local
Yes.
self-government?
Yes. Not weakens, but somehow let's say it results into centralization. So that also you can talk in limitations when we are writing a point. Basically it results into centralization. Right. E-governance itself results into re-centralization of power, because it results into the central government, central authority, it starts doing more and more things. When it starts doing with the help of technology more and more things, so what the things were decided at local level, they will also get reversed at center in the name of minimizing corruption. Right. So local level initiative will stop because they do not have participation. They can give you job, but they will not give you money, so they don't feel like involved. Right. Because when you give money, you control persons. Right. So that way it will be, so yes, local level, let's self-initiative and effective participation. So technology has its negative side also, ki lack of involvement will happen. Right. This that can be written in implementation. Limitation side. Then IR question, they have asked a simple question, but yes, it is linked to the present development. So you can write basics related to age-old Sri Lanka as a friend, which people you can be able to write. Then what steps have been taken by the government, means how we have helped, that can be written. So discuss India's role in recent crisis. It is a simple question, we can say, not that difficult. The basics people can write, you can also write. Then these some of the depicting house in Sri Lanka, what happened, this can be written. Why it faced, let's say that economic crisis, so a bit of facts you can mention. That is how government has given help to Sri Lanka, different categories of help. It is line of credit, currency aid sectors, import facilities. But then since it is saying discuss, so even if age-old friend we are, but still it has limitation, you know, Chinese angle and within Sri Lanka internal problems. The Chinese angle has been one thing, is seesaw game, you know that, as close as far, this kind of situation, right? So that you can find. So then internal politics also, especially let's say the government has been more centralizing type and not giving autonomy to especially let's say northern region. Then it's amendment of the constitution, 13th amendment that is said, so that aspect. So some of the issues have created bone of let's say contention or a bit of tension between India-Sri Lanka relation. That puts limitations on our relation with Sri Lanka. Although yes, being a democratic country, so we have more positive influence vis-a-vis China on Sri Lankan government. This we can consider. So that is how we should try to conclude it. Then again it was a expected question, that is what we were saying. So do you think that BIMSTEC is parallel organization like SARC? This. So context, since it is related to context again, so you should write context. That recently BIMSTEC has become more effective, means there is more and more emphasis on BIMSTEC as an organization rather than SARC, right? Like since 2016, SARC summit has not been held. The introduction, any introduction you can write. Then you can go and writing about SARC, BIMSTEC. This is how you should write, SARC as an organization, BIMSTEC as an organization. This can be written. Then you should write differentiation between them, what are the differences between them. Then how they are, let's say that whether the first statement, since question has been framed in such a way that the first statement would not be answered first. First we will write a bit about context, differences, then we will write whether BIMSTEC is the question the way it is asking. This. Do you think BIMSTEC is parallel organization like SARC? So we can say that it is not a parallel organization, right? Since BIMSTEC has been given emphasis as SARC is not working, so that is how it is being portrayed that yes, it is a parallel organization, right? But SARC has its own limitation and somehow there has been dead end of SARC. So should I write how there is a dead end of SARC? The dead end because of Pakistan factor. Right. And that relation is not going to change much, right, in near future, and Pakistan is another major country, and unless let's say that there is change in relation, so SARC will not. That is the one major factor that SARC since 1985 has not worked as a grouping, let's say regional grouping. Right. It has remained at taking off level only. This. So, means it has not taken off, it has remained at taking off level. Even if India has tried its best. Even we were supposed to bring SARC satellite, SARC space agency, right? So that let's say SARC satellite was also promised by present Prime Minister. So you should, this is what you can say that this. Then you can talk on BIMSTEC. It is not a regional organization, but it is an inter-regional organization. This inter-regional because it connects two regions, South Asia and East Asia. Right. And then Myanmar can work as a buffer. Right. It can work as a buffer. and our relation is still with, let's say, Northeast state plus, means potential utilization of Northeast state plus Act East policy and ASEAN countries. So that still remains underutilized. So working of BIMSTEC can give us that opportunity. So we can make our relation better. And in BIMSTEC, there is no any country which has such kind of conflict, in border conflict, let's say that. They are the literal states. And we do not have border conflict, let's say India Myanmar relation. Right. Thailand, here we have a Pakistan, we have a this. And then Afghanistan somehow touches the, let's say that, the border, but and then Pakistan and Afghanistan relation is not good. So that way if you compare, the BIMSTEC can have better future. That's why last summit when it was held in Sri Lanka, so it adopted a charter, and once it adopted a charter, it also becomes a regional organization. So that way you should portray and write about this. Then so SARC has relevance because not this deep institutional mechanism, but rather it represents subcontinent and cultural proximity. We have cultural proximity. We were part of the same culture in past. You come from the same culture, right? The socio-cultural factors. This if you see. So it remains, that is how say Indian subcontinent, right? So that gives you greater, let's say that, wherewithal for continuity and cooperation. But if you take, let's say that, BIMSTEC, so geographically, culturally asymmetrical, right? Because Myanmar, then Thailand, both the largely Buddhist state, and then let's say if you take our, let's say that, Nepal and India, they may share one type of culture. This. Plus, then we have a military regime, if you find. So, if you take SARC as a regional grouping, still let's say that it has some advantages, right? If our relation with Pakistan improves, it can be very successful grouping. This. So, Pakistan remains the main hurdle in that. And that's why it is said that that is off the, let's say, off the mark means not part of this answer, right? So basically, you should go for this. There are two hypotheses. जो अभी hypothesis चल रहा है वो ये चल रहा है कि we have to take back POK. ठीक है? And it will become quite possible in coming, let's say, I will tell you कि global scenario will change in such a way that कि you can take back. The way Russian and Ukrainian conflicts going on, suppose China and then it is Taiwan. This. So global politics scenario, it becomes conducive, then India will take that opportunity. Right. This we can say. But taking away POK means, let's say, our end of relation with Pakistan. So whether you want enmity forever, that is how. That's why there is answer. If you talk today, the other way around that thing, you build friendly relation. Build friendly relation with Pakistan. Right. The way we create anti-Pakistan sentiment in our country, the way we nurture among young people, etc. So then let's say if you go, because culturally you belong to the same, just 70 years of separation you have. But centuries of togetherness, it is said. On the one hand, you have also idea of greater, क्या बोलते हैं, अखंड भारत, right? So you want to take, after all, how you will take away POK? So unless you go for beyond this, and let's say go for friendly relation, right? The friendly relation can build you better relation. This. And possibility that yes, a time may come you can take back ours also POK. This, if you change people of Pakistan, right? People of Pakistan, they know like this. Anyhow, but then this is a democratic way to deal, and this is a military way to deal. Military way will have always possibility of conflict. This. That is how, let's say, SARC will not be, there is uncertainty. And when there is uncertainty, we will try to have other alternatives. Right. This. So that is how we can talk on this.
For the sake of writing, we cannot write the SARC and BIMSTEC are complementary to each other.
No. Yes. No. We cannot write. Complement कैसे हो सकते हैं? उनका कोई relation नहीं है आपस में. Yes. SARC and BIMSTEC, they are both two different aspects. BIMSTEC address your different problems. Let's say the Act East policy, our relation towards East, and that is also important. And our relation towards our neighboring country, that is also important. It is not complement. Rather, let's say we need both. If both works, we need both. That should be told. Anyhow, so it is another, let's say, basic question, basic but a bit challenging. Basic, you have to write conventional question. That way also you should know that UPSC is asking at least 1-2 questions which are conventional, but they are factual also. They are factual also, this you should know that. So they demand a bit of factual, let's say that knowledge. So you can see from it is basic model answer. Simply you can read this representation of people act. It has, these are some provisions. Then it has under section 100, these are the grounds. Let's say election can be declared as void, date of election, etc. as corruption. These are some basic points. Then procedures are there, elections. No election can be declared. Void means any, let's say, election of any candidate. Right. That can be declared void only through election petition. That is filed in the High Court. High Court has the jurisdiction. Appeal can be filed against that High Court in Supreme Court. That is how some cases law it is talking. This is another question where it has told some case law. So some case law you can mention. These are some cases in which judgments have been given. And that is how it can be concluded. Right.
But in general, we don't study these case laws. In general, in our
Yes. Basically, if you see prelims में भी उन्होंने law type पूछने लगे हैं. Right. This contempt law उन्होंने पूछा, parole वाला पूछा. So अब थोड़ा सा जो पढ़ने का तरीका है, the way you strategize your study ना, it shows कि हमारे थोड़ा सा legalistic होना पड़ेगा. Right. Legalistic is, paper is becoming legalistic. Right. So we should focus on that legalistic aspect. So some cases we should know. This. That is how it is. Now suppose कि a candidate what will do? Candidate does not know. Anything comes in your mind related to election petition. Right. Anything comes in your mind, election petition, so that you can mention. Now you should have read current affairs in such a fashion. At least you know at least one case. I will take. अगर कुछ भी नहीं याद हो, तो I will tell you that is Salman Khurshid case. You know that is Salman Khurshid and there was something action by election commission. Then he challenged in Supreme Court. This, if it is not, if you have any other, let's say that case in which election paid news से ही related कोई MLA वाला case है, उसको mention कर दो. Means something which is related to MLA or MP and that election has been challenged, isn't it, in the court. Disqualification. Right. Election. What question is saying? Let's read once again so that if we do not know such kind of specific cases, what we can write? What are the grounds on which election of any returned candidate may be declared void? This. So, even suppose you do not know. Suppose you do not know that. Even let's say that what substitute we can have. So you can write Delhi Office of Profit, 21 MLAs were disqualified by election commission. Election commission gave advice. Suppose you do not have exact fact, but you can have a supplement fact. Just to make your answer let's say, a bit having substance. Because yes, it is very difficult to remember such kind of cases. Even we will not remember, this is to know in long run, because these are not part and parcel of your teaching also. Right? You don't go and teach in such details, micro details. Right? So that way we can consider. That's why even if question is simple, but it can be a bit challenging. This, let's take this. Now discuss the essential conditions for the exercise of legislative powers by the governor. Then discuss the legality of the repromulgation of ordinance by governor without placing them before legislature. Very specific question it is. This you should know that it is very specific question. It is the second time they have asked a question on governor. This is first. And second time they have also asked a question on repromulgation. Right. Both are second time. But what they have done, they have combined. Second part is related to repromulgation. First part is related to legislative power. Right. Now what candidates are going to write? Whether they will write first power as essential exercise of legislative power, or they will just write related to promulgation of ordinance. Even if let's suppose कि first part they are able to write, let's come to second part. Will they able to write what is legality of repromulgation? Again, legalistic question. Right. Right. But उसमें क्या आप legality नहीं जानते उसका? What legality of repromulgation you know? Let me guess. क्या आप जानते हैं? मतलब what does it mean? ताकि मुझे भी idea लगे कि how much people know.
Repromulgation without placing it before the legislature will amount to the violation or fraud on the constitution.
But वो तो कृष्ण वाला केस है ना. कृष्ण कुमार वाला केस है ना अभी फ्रॉड ऑन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. राइट. तो वो भी कृष्ण कुमार वाला भी बिहार का ही केस है. Right. So that's why it can be kept under difficult. We will not say still extremely difficult. Why we will not say extremely difficult? Because already repromulgation they have asked. And that time this debate is started. Since you may not have that memory, so you belong to a new, let's say, already let's say it has become 10 years of that, right? Basically in 2017 and 16 they asked this question, repromulgation. And that time the debate was going on repromulgation. Right? Basically land acquisition law repromulgated in legislature, parliament. So debate was going on that. So that's why in that perspective we can see. Now, let me so you can write anything. Let's introduction, then essential, or a bit of about governor. No. Basics. Since it is a 15-mark question, they should have written about basics of this governor. Then essential legislative power. This So these are, see, in general you don't have to write. Simply you can pass on that general aspect by writing that governor enjoy more or less same legislative powers as enjoyed by president. Right? Related to ordinary bill, right? Ordinary bill, money bill, etc. That way we can write. Governor also does not have veto power like president. So unlike president, governor does not have veto power. So that also you can write. Because question is saying essential. So you don't have to write his general powers, normally he exercises. What essential conditions, what are those essential conditions where he exercises his legislative power? That's also question related to legislative power. So either to reconsider a bill, he can reserve a bill, send for president consideration, and some under some conditions and some bills related to high court and others infringing the power, governor has to intervene. Right. Governor has to seek, let's say, that bill and let's say that he can send to the president. There are some special aspects that you can say. Then a special aspect related to ordinance. The special aspect related to ordinance is that when legislature is not in session, so then there can be an extreme emergency, ordinance can be issued. This is another legislative power. Some special type that you have to call the session of the house. Recent times it has happened. So in this case, Arunachal Pradesh case, session was advanced. Then session was not brought in Kerala case, Kerala government advised, then Maharashtra. So you have some examples, let's say, related to this. Simply we can tell that ki prorogue and summon can be not normal. In some special situation, it needs that ki the governor should intervene or call even a special session of the house if government advises. That is the first part of the question. Then second part. The second part first. Legality. Repromulgation. So legality of repromulgation. Now we have to talk about ordinance, basic. A bit line ordinance, governor has ordinance making power, and ordinance can also be repromulgated. Repromulgation means when the same ordinance loses its life, right, and house is not in session, or house comes in session, but it is not able to consider the ordinance, so ordinance does not survive. And once house ends its session, hence the government again goes on repromulgating the ordinance. Means the same ordinance is revived, repromulgated. Right. Like for instance at union level, land acquisition law was 4 times repromulgated. And like in Bihar, we have 256 times, right, legislation repromulgated for 14 years. Which resulted into DC Vadhwa case, right, 1987. Right? That is the basic aspect. Still we are not talking legality. Right? Now, the legality of repromulgation means whether the governor has power to repromulgate and what are the circumstances in which a repromulgation will be legally valid. Right? This. So repromulgation will be considered legally valid. So DC Vadhwa case gave a landmark judgment that if an ordinance is arbitrary, it can be declared null and void. Ordinance making power is exercised only in emergency situation. At the same time, it allowed repromulgation. That is important. DC Vadhava case went and saying कि repromulgation per se is not null and void. This. It means कि the governor has power to repromulgate. Why it was allowed? Because legislature may not have time to approve the law. Legislature may have lack of time, shortage of time, so it may not approve the law. And hence, there can be repromulgation. That is the logic. Right. So, that was also, let's say, this judgment came during Narasimha Rao government time. Supreme Court gave in another, let's say, case this judgment. That when ordinance was challenged, it says that we can allow repromulgation because legislature may not have time to approve the law. Right. Now let's say that when this Krishna Kumar case in 2017, Bihar case. So the Supreme Court went on declaring that repromulgation is unconstitutional. Repromulgation is unconstitutional. So as of now, if we go as per Supreme Court interpretation, the repromulgation does not have its legality. Even it is not legally valid. Rather, Supreme Court made it unlawful. Right. It is fraud on constitution. This you should know that. So, as of now, repromulgation will not be considered legally valid. But still thereafter, government has repromulgated law. Even central government has repromulgated. Right. This. So, the legality we can talk, the legal aspect of repromulgation will be, even if Supreme Court considers it as fraud on constitution, but in extremes, let's say that urgency, even let's say that lockdown situation, right? When there is a lockdown, legislature is not in session, right? Or suppose legislature comes in session, then again there is lockdown. Our legislature comes in a very short duration. So, legality of any repromulgation should be seen as per the circumstances. Whether legislature is not competent to approve the law and is it legally justified. Right. And that way, the governor should exercise power or president should exercise power, although repromulgation should be avoided. Because it is let's say that breach on constitution, it simply let's say that it disrespect the mandate of the government, let's say popular mandate and legislative sovereignty, because the ordinance is a delegated power, not power at first place exercised by executive. And that is how you should end on this. Yes.
Repromulgation without intent to pass in the House. Supreme Court added, if the government doesn't want to face the legislature.
Yes,
So
that is, yes, intent to bypass the House. So then it will result into the same law you are promulgating again and again. You can promulgate once, twice, but not let's say 256 times. So it clearly shows the intent. Second thing is, this legislature session can be extended. Right. The logic which was given by Supreme Court in 2000, let's say that case, so legislature may not have time, but legislature session you can extend to pass a bill. Right. This. So then why there should be repromulgation? But somehow let's say debate or the role of Supreme Court, comprehensive interpretation demands. Right. Ordinance demands a comprehensive interpretation. Because when this Chandrachud bench declared that they have not given a very comprehensive let's interpretation of ordinance, whether repromulgation in any case will be invalid. Right. This, so that's why let's say, but we will not go into those aspects. Anyhow, let's take national political parties in India favor centralization. The regional parties are in favor of state autonomy. Right. We asked this year in our, although we have not mentioned it, I will tell you that fortunately this year from GS paper second test, several questions have been asked, right, including backward class commission, including let's say this called party, because coalition politics we asked, we expected a question on coalition politics, somehow it is related to that, not directly, this we can say, disability bill, that we can say. So anyhow, but that's not the point, and we also do not try to claim all those things. This, now you should know that largely people will write yes. No? Largely people will write yes, national parties favor centralization and state regional party favor decentralization, without thinking which are national parties. Right. So, national parties are not only BJP and Congress. CPI, RJD, CPIM, CPI, let's say, yes, CPI you have. Samadwadi party was also once. As of now, we have 8 national parties. Right. The 8 national parties, except 2 parties, they are regional parties. Isn't it? They are regional parties. So, whether regional party will support centralization? No. That is what the undercurrent of the answer. Although you should start writing this question that national parties, simply we can start India is a India has adopted a parliamentary democracy with multi-party system. Right. It has also a federal structure, right, at union means federal structure, and at a state level also there is a multi-party democratic system. And therefore, India has characteristics of national, state and regional parties. National and state parties are recognized by Election Commission as per their criteria. This. Then broadly there are 2 major national parties, BJP and Congress. Although some other, let's say that state parties, when they fulfill the criteria, they are also considered as national parties. Like say CPI, you can talk National Congress Party, Samajwadi Party, RJD, AIDMK, that's this we can say BSP. So you can take some names that at certain point of time they have been part of our national party. This, thereafter you have to talk that this centralizing and decentralizing. So evolution you can take how Indian, a bit of evolution you can talk. Thereafter how Indian democracy has evolved. So evolution is important to write. The evolution largely we can write. So this one aspect. This so since one party, so centralizing, no. So beginning of decentralization, beginning of decentralization, emphasis on decentralization, can we say? The emphasis on decentralization, and then again we have centralizing this. So a bit of evolutionary aspect should be given so that you cover the entire range. Then you can go for debate on this. Then you can start talking that ki how first we had one party, then out of Indian National Congress Party, most of the non-BJP related, let's say that, except BJP, all let's say that ki parties are largely from Congress, offshoot of Congress. This, so this one we can say. Plus, basically 67 onwards, emergence of regional parties, how regional parties have emerged in different states. Then by 89 onwards, you can find that those regional parties, they get strengthened, and they become very strong party at state level. So you can say, let's say Biju Janata Dal in Odisha, then let's say this Trinamool Congress, there you can say AIDMK in Tamil Nadu, you can say PMK and etc. you will find. Then Samajwadi Party, BSP you can find, Nationalist Congress Party. So we should write, you have to depict some of the things related to the parties. They are very strong parties in their state. Like in Odisha, Naveen Patnaik. This. So when you have a strong regional party, a strong chief minister. The strong chief minister means chief minister will demand autonomy. This. So that has happened. So this is what we have to show. But central parties, largely we can say BJP and Congress, since they are the national party and they have largely formed the government, and Indian constitution has a centralizing tendency, hence they follow that, and therefore they are more characterized to have centralizing tendency. Although they have also tried to decentralize. They have tried to decentralize, we were talking about decentralization. Right. So they have tried to decentralize, we can say 73rd, 74th Amendment Act. But overall characteristics they have is called centralizing tendency. Like say the present government. Right. And then you can give some examples, how let's say the state parties, those which are strong, they have been demanding greater autonomy, devolution of powers, and they resist any such developments which curtail or take away their powers. Like say CA law, some states passed resolution. Right. They adopted resolution, although they don't have that kind of legal, let's say, power to adopt resolution. By adopting, they say they have done. CBI, let's say, memorandum of understanding, they have not renewed. Right. They have registered the role of UPSC in appointment of DGP. This you should know. The CBI wala federal polity, they have asked question, you know. This. Then recent case cadre amendment rule. This will find how that aspect. In past they rejected the draft of NCTC, National Counter-Terrorism. The draft was rejected by state chief ministers. Right. And they have registered creation of more All India services. This. Even schemes and programs implementation, Ayushman Bharat, not implemented by Odisha and West Bengal. Right. Now they have, let's say that agreed, means Odisha agreed to implement, then now you will find this. So some examples can be given of how they are more inclined towards autonomy, or we have All India Chief Ministers conferences, and in All India Chief Ministers conference or Niti Aayog conference, state governments give lots of emphasis that union government should devolve more and more powers. It is there, let's say that emphasis and let's say demand that time to time union government has been forced to take steps like restructuring centrally sponsored schemes. So centrally sponsored schemes were restructured on the basis of a subgroup panel headed by Shivraj Singh Chauhan, that time Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister. And then government has given more and more flexibility in fund utilization. That is known as flexi fund. So this way we can say that tendency. However, it should not be depicted as national parties and regional party. Rather, India is still excessively centralized. Right. constitution, schedule 7, right, and it needs decentralization. Right. It needs decentralization. And there should be, let's say that decentralization to a level, means you should reach to a threshold level of decentralization. Unless we reach to that level, demands and conflicts will keep surfacing. Right. And that's why there should be decentralization, and it was expected by the framers of the constitution when a quasi-federal polity was adopted. So they did not want to maintain a status quo of quasi-federal polity. Rather, there should be greater devolution of powers tomorrow towards a state, as let's say that that time India was a transitional society and transitional democracy, so it needed more power, center needed more power, but once our society becomes mature, democracy becomes mature, so power should go where it belongs to, known as principle of subsidiarity. That is how we should conclude towards end. So it was another dynamic question, let's say, dynamic question which demands, let's say, efforts to write, and again it depends whether you have some facts, etc. So that way we can consider.
One more thing.
Yes, yes.
Sir, inner party democracy, party itself is high command structure. Based on high command structure, how can it be decentralized? Because the flaw is in the party structure itself.
No. But that much we may not write here, because then let's say since it is depicting between two parties, right? So you can write somewhere a point related, inner party democracy. Like even chief ministers, so they are demanding autonomy, but they are doing the same thing what center is doing
In
their own state. In their own state and their own, let's say, they are also centralized. Right. That's why in COVID time, PM, CM and DM, right, that type of hypothesis was given by Indian Express and saying it's centralization of power. So yes, it is, but since question overtone is not in that way, so a point can be mentioned. Somewhere you can mention a point. No need to focus on inner party democracy. Although we ask in our mock test a question related to inner party democracy, we have asked one essay also, because we have been expecting a question inner party democracy. And since election has happened in Congress party first time, after some certain number of years, and again UK crisis going on, the UK crisis is basically, it shows that how there is inner party democracy. Right. If Prime Minister is not able to deliver, he must resign or she must resign. And first Prime Minister should be elected by the party. So it is making, somehow it is building up, let's say that one such, let's need that UPSC means we can expect a question in future on that way of, let's say, question. Anyhow, so critically examine procedure through which President of India, France. Second time they are asking France. We ask Canada. We ask Canada in our question. They are asking France. Right. France, once they have asked secular wala, paper one basically they ask. So it is again a basic question, you know that. But difficult since people may not know about France, how president is elected. But in a general, suppose general understanding you have, the people will be able to write something. But let's say that if you have not read in that fashion, so it will be very difficult. So this can be considered as a not difficult but very difficult question. Because suppose you do not know how France president is elected. Right. You cannot write anything. ये कोई subjective question तो है नहीं. ये चलो कुछ भी लिख सकते हैं थोड़ा बहुत, right, related to the question. So largely, let's say basically difference. France is a quasi-presidential and quasi-prime ministerial government. So even if France, let's say, means French president is directly elected, this you should know that. The French president is directly elected, but it is not similar to US. This. So he is elected directly, but system is mixed type. Right. So then there is a prime minister, right? Then there is legislature, this, and it is a unitary state. This, then there will be, let's say that, okay, so our president, so election of the president election is indirect, France election is direct. This. So then we have, let's say, absolute majority 50% plus 1. But that president there's you will find that it is called about something system, quota system. So France president will find that. So there is no limit, means in India president has no any limitation, any number of time. But in France it is 2 number of time, means one more tenure it is said. French president, so then he has, let's say, direct election, so people directly participate in the process. We have electoral college system, right? So these are some, let's say that differences. Other facts you should read from this factual question. So
This also we don't prepare it in standard preparation, this type of question, how France president.
yes. See, now let's say based on the experience, based on the experience, let's say secular aspect they have asked, presidential election they have asked, right to equality they have asked, means equality related to UK and India, this is how they ask. It demands that some of the major characteristics of major country, UK, France, US, Canada, right, even let's say that Germany, so we should know, right, like say prime minister, president, constitution, fundamental rights, federal polity. Now, as of now, they are asking only developed country. Right. We do not know what UPSC, they can ask South Africa also. Right. So that is how, let's say that some questions are, as of now, we should prepare major countries. Even I will tell you Australia also, which the countries which have major influence on Indian constitution. This you can say. So that way we can prepare and target. And suppose people do not know. Suppose they do not know. No? Means France also does not come in comparison. Largely while polity if you teach, so largely comparison happen with UK and US. Okay, not France. It will be difficult for a candidate to write something. That's also in 15-mark question. They have this kind of, let's say, strategy that they ask a question which has less content in 15 marks. That's why it is very challenging.
Why it is written critically examined? It should be just compare or something critically examined what it is looking at.
Basically, critically examine here by the tone of the question is that it will not be something incorrect. So basically, it is saying to write pros and cons, the positive of, not only compare it, but also write their pros and cons. Means ki better, means ki whether it is better, it is not better. Let's say ki Indian election. In Indian election, that ki since people do not have a direct say, this will find, rather it is elected. When it is elected, so nowadays somehow elections are becoming a bit politicized. This we can consider. And then president remains more as a formal figure. But in their country, let's say president is directly elected. But again that president is not as, even if directly elected, not as powerful as US president. Right. So basically a bit of that side also you have to write. This is how question is demanding. Right. Then it was, again it's expected question, model code of conduct. Right. In fact, the question which was most obvious, they have not asked. We have been expecting a question on criminalization of politics, but they have not asked. Election Commission, they have asked 2-3 times. Model code of conduct question, generally we ask when elections are conducted, right? Especially national election. When national elections are conducted, so that time, let's say in 2024. when elections will be conducted. Either we will ask in 2024 or 2025, and thereafter for 4 years you will not ask. But anyhow, let's say it was expected question. First time they have asked model code of conduct. And then it is a simple question. They are asking evolution, in the light of evolution of model code of conduct. Right. Discuss the role of Election Commission of India in the light of evolution of model code of conduct. This. Then again, let's say they have left it open-ended. What role of Election Commission you have to discuss in the context of model code of conduct? No. Whether it is related to enforcement of model code of conduct, it is related to weakness in model code of conduct, it is related to improvement in model code of conduct, is it?
Sir, I think it is about the output capturing to a much more better regime.
Yes. How Election Commission has over a period of time ensured free and fair election through model code of conduct. But since discuss, right, so you have to also write other side of this. Anyhow. See, some of the factuals you may be knowing. So 60s, first time in Kerala election model code of conduct brought. Then 1979, then finally during TN session time, you know that. So that way it was used, and then it has evolved. The model code of conduct has evolved, right? And it has evolved on the also basis of consensus among all political parties. So Election Commission has time to time brought election code of conduct, and during election time they were enforced for free and fair elections, and then finally let's say that there is emergence of a code known as model code of conduct. This model code of conduct has incorporated some of the provisions also from, you can say that IPC and also from Representation of People Act. At the same time, some of the provisions are moral in nature. On the whole, model code of conduct is a more moral code of conduct, right, which is not, let's say that having any legal backup. This you should know. Means it is not, a model code of conduct does not have a legal backup, although some provisions have been taken from Representation of People Act. This you should know. Anyhow, so that is, we can say simply we can start that Election Commission of India with the help of model code of conduct has time to time ensured that there is free and fair elections, and elections have come away from the era of both capturing to let's free and fair elections or having trust in people. That way we can consider. So an introduction can be written, and basics you should write. Election Commission is a constitutional body which is apex in terms of conduct and superintendence of election. Its main role is to conduct elections free and fair. Model code of conduct comes generally in operation during election time, and it is enforced by Election Commission so that those who are the political parties, government and candidates adhere to certain standards of conduct which help in conducting elections is smooth and free and fair. So a general aspect of things should be written when you are writing the basics. Many a time it happens when you do not write basic in long answers. So what happens? You have written entire answer, but nowhere what a basic is written, what is model code of conduct. Same thing people do in essay. They have written essay on wisdom, but what is wisdom is not written. That's why you should have habit of talking these things while writing. Then you can see how it has evolved a bit. This can be told, and this about MC's model code of conduct. Here you can be a bit specific. Here you can be a generic. Here you can be specific. Model code of conduct comes into operation when the schedules of elections are announced, and it remains, let's say, into operation by the time the results are declared. During that time, Election Commission of India is the main institution to enforce it, and on violation of model code of conduct, even Election Commission can take a very harsh action, including, let's say that declaring a candidate as null and void or even de-recognizing a political party. This, so that can be considered. Then this model code of conduct is needed to ensure level playing field among all the candidates and political parties. Generally, it happens that first there have been electoral malpractices, including both capturing, rigging and influencing voters by, let's say that such kind of policies etc. during election time. Since government is at advantage position vis-a-vis opposition parties, so government can lure the voters by some programs and schemes and other such during election time. Even it can misuse its machineries, right, because it is in power. Hence, model code of conduct gives power to Election Commission to create a level playing field. That what even a ruling government cannot do and what it can do. Right. And that is how you can write about this aspect. Then further you can write recent developments. Social media has also, Cambridge Analytica, etc. How a social media ethics was prepared, guideline was adopted by Election Commission before 2019 Lok Sabha election, and which are supposed to be adhered by the political parties as well as IT companies. So that has also evolved. So that is how we can write about this. Then we can go and write about this called weaknesses related to this. The weaknesses we can find that how it is, since it is a moral code of conduct, rationale behind model code of conduct was that political parties and government will observe conduct. They will observe this moral conduct. They will have certain standard of practices, like in their speech, in their campaign, right, in their agendas that they announce, in the promise they have, right. But it is found that those standards have not been adhered by political parties. Like, in fact, all speeches are colored with religion, communal aspect, hatred aspect you can find during election time, but no action has been taken. Right. Then you know that even let's say election time even let's say policies etc. have been announced in such a way that it amounts to somehow breach of the model code of conduct, but action has not been taken. During election time it has been found. NAMO TV matter, the NAMO TV matter you can say. Then there were 4 or 5 such functionaries in 2019 election. Supreme Court asked Election Commission to take action. Right. Then Election Commission replied to Supreme Court that it does not have power. So then Supreme Court says that no, you are not invoking your power. That is how you find. You are not invoking. And Supreme Court even threatened, if you are not going to take action, we will be forced to summon Chief Election Commissioner. Right. Then actions were taken. Who were those people? So it was one Samajwadi Party, Rampur politician, Azam Khan. One was Azam Khan. Another was that women minister, women and child development minister. No, before that. Varun Gandhi mother. Right. Menka Gandhi. Another was Menka Gandhi. Right. Another was, I guess, Uma Bharti. There were 5 such, let's say, members. Right. So they had, in speech, they had spoken something, let's say, which were objectionable. And Election Commission was not taking action. So the Supreme Court is, let's say, a sort of scolded it. You are not invoking power. Right. You have power of superintendence. Right. And that can become basis to invoke anyhow. So in NAMO TB also, NAMO TB you know that resulted, action was not taken and there was a split view of Election Commission. The 2 members and 1 member. Ashok Lavasa, he had a different view and that difference resulted into his quitting Election Commission. Right. The Election Commission 1 member quit. Right. Anyhow, but you can write in a formal way, means answer mein aise nahi lag sakte. So you can write ki means Election Commission has been criticized for not invoking its powers under Article 324 to enforce model code of conduct. We can find ki how election practices, money, muscle powers, you can find speeches, how religiously colored, but actions have not been taken. Plus fake videos, etc., you know that. It's different types of fake videos surface, character assassination, etc. happen, and maligning of, let's say, that image happen. But Election Commission takes its time, that is called it lacks institutional capacity to efficiently enforce or proactively enforce model code of conduct. Right. Therefore, what should be done? Now people will write कि it should be made legally binding, but no, ये इसका purpose ही नहीं था ये. Right. In past we have asked this question. The day you make it legally binding, then Election Commission will lose its power. Right. This you should know. अब क्या एक proposal दिया गया है इसके लिए? It is off the track, not part of answer. The government wants to create a quasi-judicial body to deal against electoral disputes as well as enforcement of model code of conduct. You know it is a proposal. Model code of conduct would be enforced by a separate body. So when a separate body is going to enforce model code of conduct, Election Commission has no power in it. How it will conduct free and fair election? So the day you will talk, it will have a legal, it should be given legal framework. The government will create a separate institution. And the day you say create a separate institution, right, Whatever the power you have as of now, it is also gone. Right. That is what we have to understand. So this way you have to, let's understand this anyhow. But what we have to write is, first is why Election Commission is not able to enforce it properly. The first thing is that you see its institutional capacity should be enhanced. Election Commission as an institution should have greater human resource, technological resource. CAG is a 4,000 body institution, you should know that. 4,000 persons serve CAG. Right. So Election Commission also, since challenges of elections, you know that they have increased. Right. Electoral roll maintenance, right. Aadhaar card linkage, then change mobility of people from one state to another state. So its challenges have increased. Hence, it cannot work with the same capacity. And number of disputes, you know, आजकल YouTube के culture में, you know that there are so many YouTube videos, etc., and Cambridge Analytica and other such practices that do you think that it has that technical efficiency and institutional capacity to deal with that increasing number of cases? So it does not have. So we need to enhance its institutional capacity. That you should know that. Then it should have more and more technical staff, technical members, those who have expertise in the field of those technology. Because more and more, let's say, disputes are related to technical aspect. Let's say Cambridge Analytica, Pegasus. So whether Election Commission has that kind of cyber cell? So don't you think Election Commission should have its own cyber cell? So that it can during election time, and always you have election, this or that election, state election or other election. So that can be one aspect. So this should be written. Plus, let's say you need to bring electoral reforms. Free and fair election, enforcement of model code of conduct, there you can write about internal party democracy. There. See, why Election Commission should have responsibility to conduct free and fair election? Right. Why not political party and government? What you have done? Shifted the responsibility. But it should be the government responsibility to conduct elections free and fair, not Election Commission. Right. You cannot conduct free and fair election through a commission. Don't glorify it. Many countries don't have such commission. Western countries don't have such commissions because they don't need commissions. When there are no challenges of free and fair election, तो why you need commission? And यहाँ पे हम more और power चाहिए. Right? This you have to understand. So rather the responsibility should be of the government, of the political parties, to conduct elections free and fair, and that demand greater internal party democracy. This internal party democracy will happen. Plus, you need to regulate other aspects of elections. There's funding of election, money in election. You need to regulate accordingly. You need to bring change in Representation of People Act. So basically, let's say that these steps are means you should write how to improve it. And towards end, let's say we can say that if free and fair elections should be responsibility of democracy. Not only one institution, because no matter how powerful you make that institution, right, unless people want, government wants, there will not be free and fair election. This, and that is how it should end. Yes, yes. Yes, that is how they cannot determine. They are not institutions. See, that is what I told that why government should not have concern. That is how some of the facts you should know that. MC means Model Code of Conduct 60, it evolved, then 79 consultation, then 91 it was introduced, TN session, etc. Then 2013 this election manifesto, manifesto related, 19 social media related. Then that is how we were saying that Indian Penal Code, it has Representation of People Act, it has. Some sources are taken from there. These are some recent developments. Yes, see, it should not be the role of election commission. Right? Otherwise, election commission will become then something else. Right. Yes, other countries you should know that, but since it is not part of this, but you know, other countries, let's say Western countries, you cannot have anything as agenda. The agenda that you give, it should be approved by election commission in UK. This is should know. The agenda that you give, you should also tell how you will achieve this. Right. हमारे देश में क्या होता है? Right. Agenda कुछ भी दे दो. So basically agendas are scrutinized by election commissions and they need approval of election commission. So that is also, let's say anything cannot be agenda. A political party, if it has internal party democracy, there will be political discourse within political party. So what agenda they should adopt, what agenda they should not adopt, that also be openly discussed. But when you do not have, let's say, internal party democracy, hardly there will be any discussion of election agenda. Party members will come to know once agenda has been brought. So that is what we can say that. So yes, there should be also regulation of agenda announced by political parties. This we can also talk. Right. Welfare scheme, then debt management, inflation, unemployment, that is how they are trying to link with. So besides welfare schemes, so first thing is that you write about welfare schemes, the schemes that have been initiated for poverty alleviation, including Manrega, etc., national social assistance schemes. So this, then debt management of inflation and unemployment. So you should write then link it out how inflation can also affect, let's say, that welfare of people. Right. So if inflation is very high, in fact inflation is also measured by linking with consumer price index, labor index, this agriculture, let's say. So inflation is also measured on the basis of that. So increase in inflation means increase in burden on consumer. An increase in burden on consumer means, let's say that so even if, let's say, the government is having a scheme in which it is giving 4,000 and inflation has increased, the cost of 4,000 will reduce. This. Then on unemployment, so you can mention some of the facts related to recent inflation. Even you can mention also how inflation in Sri Lanka increased and inflation increase resulted into also a kind of crisis, economic crisis. That way. Similarly, unemployment. So welfare schemes are, let's say, trying to give you benefits basically. Although we have a scheme which gives also employment, but that Manrega is not going to address poverty related, or it may not be adequate enough to address the unemployment problem. Largely you will find that in our country we have unemployment means our economy is largely informal sector economy. Means unless you bring structural change in economy, right, primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, and unless, let's say that your primary sector, secondary sector, so they have, let's say, especially primary sector, so unless you, let's bring manufacturing sector in that, unless you generate more and more job, means unless you bring change in structural aspect of the economy, even if you have welfare schemes, but it will not have effects. Right. Our organized sector has a very limited share, it has 6 to 8% share in overall employment. So most of the, let's say, employment goes in unorganized sector. Right. So basically this question is saying that you have to have more focus on the exact, let's say, causative factors. What we are trying to do? Schemes, programs. See. Poor people. The poor people are there and we are trying to have welfare scheme. The welfare schemes are basically helping poor people to have a subsistence life. What Amar Sen will say, functional life. They are surviving, right? But in this poor list, are we minimizing this list? Yes, we are minimizing. Let's say we are minimizing. Let's say poverty has come down to 9%, it is said. Right. Although RSS, one senior functionary has told that 20 crore people are critically poor. 20 crore people are critically poor. Right. The political analysis is going on since Rahul Gandhi has Bharat Jodo, and then he is talking about unemployment. The government has now changed its stand, and it has started talking about poverty and unemployment. But taking aside that, but he says that 20 crore people are poor. Right. It means, let's say you have substantial chunk of people, even if 9% is very huge. Right. This is World Bank report. Right. So suppose they are poor, but then the question is that this number of poor is increasing. Number of poor people because of other factors, let's say COVID crisis. The COVID crisis has further resulted into increase. You should know that urban poverty is increasing. So it is not static. Now let's say the question is saying that two factors. One, inflation. The inflation will have a negative impact on them. Plus unemployment per se. So unemployment, are we addressing the problems of causes of unemployment? Let's say many people in COVID time, they have lost job. So when they have lost job, and let's say so far government has not brought any report on employment. So that is how we have to focus in this question related to employment, means unemployment. If government brings direct intervention, not to give job, to generate job. Right. The government should focus on generating jobs. Right. So when you generate jobs, so that way let's say that it will automatically reduce poverty. This migrant crisis example can be given. No migrant crisis, what happens? Even they cannot stay in the city for some time. Right. And they go to their houses, wherever they belong. Again COVID, let's say, ends, they come back. Again COVID comes, they again go back. That says let's say how there is unemployment, etc. You read further from this means facts model answer. It demands a bit of, let's say, more research. Anyhow, so do you agree with this increasing dependence on donor agency? Yes, it was also expected question. We were expecting a question on donor agencies because first time they have asked a question on donor agencies. This you should know. Now many people do not know much about donor agencies. This you should know. Right. So donor agencies are those agencies which give fund, right, to either a third party or to the beneficiary directly. This. So donor agencies can be, let's say that basically there are three models in donor agency case. Model 1, Western countries giving to developing countries and developing countries giving to needy persons. This model 2, Western countries including some developing countries giving to intermediary third party, World Bank, IMF, UNDP, United Nations, international civil society organizations, and they in turn give it to the government or directly they deliver to the beneficiaries. This is second model. The third model is developing countries. Developing countries are also donor agency like say India. It gives line of credit, you can say Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Asian Development Bank, BRICS Bank, this we can say that. So Asian Development Bank, BRICS Bank, etc., Asian Development Bank funds many programs in our country. So This way it can be considered. Simply we have to say that ki developing countries like say ki in India, the India has, let's say that India still receives lots of funds known as foreign funds. In addition to foreign investment, it receives lots of funds, let's say World Bank. The World Bank is funding Swachh Bharat mission. They'll find out. So Swachh Bharat mission, similarly various schemes, program, water related, water resource, let's say water conservation related schemes and programs, you'll find even UK also funds. So you can give Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and let's say it funding Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that you can find. So there are, let's say that key institutions, there are donor agencies which bring fund to government and other institutions. Now the second part of the question is benefits etc. you can write. Thereafter it says that a community participation development process. So it is saying that view that increasing dependence on donor agencies for development reduces importance of community participation. So does it reduce importance of community participation? Justify your answer. So to some extent we can say agree means we will not completely agree. Why we will not completely agree? See, when funds come from donor agencies, it results into passivity. Passivity. पैसा मिल गया. It generates passivity in society, people's participation, and many a time people join organization to receive funds, including self-help groups. So this kind of culture also you have, people join to get funds, and if let's say people are forced to generate resources, so there will be participation. If you are forced to generate your own resource, create resource, even developing countries, they are receiving fund. So when developing countries are receiving funds and when we do not have conditionalities, so what will happen? Even developing countries also have passivity. That's why many times aid conditionalities are imposed so that the funds are properly utilized. And even conditionalities are that you decentralize, bring greater transparency in fund utilization. One such example is Swachh Bharat mission. The Swachh Bharat mission, first World Bank decided to fund it. And once it found that there are, let's say, data are being fabricated and government is not adhering to certain standards in fund utilization, the World Bank stopped funding Swachh Bharat mission. Only when government brought intervention, so then World Bank again decided to fund Swachh Bharat mission. This you should know. So to some extent it can be agreed, but yes, again let's say that we cannot say, because even donor agencies promote participation. Let's say Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation you can find, Azim Premji Foundation you can find, other such let's say donor agencies which are giving, they encourage also people participation. For instance, let's say Aspirational District Initiative and participation by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Right. Similarly, let's say Public Health Foundation of India and various types of immunization program, and it is funded by let's say even Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then people's participation. So even donor agencies, let's say that they encourage greater decentralization and participation and transparency. It cannot be agreed, but yes, to some extent it can be said that since how the funds come, that concern you do not have, hence it imbibes a sense of passivity in those who are the participants and beneficiaries. And that is how we should try to write on this. Yes.
Sir, economic survey also talked about that taxation is an economic glue, and whenever people are taxed, they hold the institution accountable for the services they get in return. And also the Bill India Gates Foundation and other bodies, they decide their priorities on their own, but in general the norm should be that what are the people's aspirations are.
Yes, that can also be incorporated in details when you write. Basically, let's say that it's about coming from within. When funds are coming from without, right, then let's say that yes, there can be prioritization, there can be terms and conditions, aid conditionalities. Hence, the funds can be only for particular purpose and it can go to only particular area and particular sector. But when people are active, so they can be, let's say that they will try to solve the problems as yesterday we were talking about, core and non-core aspect, let's say that. So, people will try to solve their problem themselves and that will result into, let's say, a decentralized approach. Like wherever the problems people involved, they will generate resource, they will solve it. This, or they should get more and more freedom. So yes, that can also be added because that's what, let's say, why self, let's say, efforts are not taken in our country, and this is not a culture. Western countries are highly civil society oriented, and that kind of acts are works are appreciated. In our country, that kind of acts are not appreciated because it's a society which is transitional, feudal type, where getting a job, doing a government job is more important than, let's say, that helping people through self-initiative. This, anyhow, let's yes, that was also expected question, Right to Education Act. In fact, what we can say, we ask in our mock test Right to Education Act for girl education, right, this. So, but it is a general thing it is talking. First you write about Right to Education Act, its some provisions, etc. What are the basic provisions related to Right to Education Act? Then write its some significance of Right to Education Act or benefits you can write. The benefits you can say Right to Education Act. It is in fact operationalization of fundamental right which was added by 86th Amendment Act in our Constitution, Article 21A. So operationalization was done through that. Then it brings, let's say, free and compulsory education between 6 and 14 years. Even EWS provisions you have. EWS provision in terms of, let's say, economically weaker section, they will get education even in good schools. So 25% seats are reserved for EWS category. Then it also sets the limitations, physical infrastructure, human infrastructure in a school. So these standards it also set physical and human, let's say, teacher and taught relation. So this way we can consider some positive things when we are writing. Then when it says that inadequate in promoting incentive-based system for children education without generating awareness about importance of schooling. Incentive-based is not that you have to give money something, right? Incentive-based means that when children are going to school, so do they feel encouraged to go to school? What incentive they have to go to school? Whether learning is very interesting in that school, teaching is very interesting in that school. That incentive, let's say that, whether a school has proper infrastructure, whether teacher-taught relationship, whether learning outcome is better. This. So we find that even if we have an act, let's say Right to Education Act, even fundamental right, but you know the conditions of the schools. By Pratham report, how Pratham report that 8 standard students are not even able to read and write, 5 standard, let's say that books. And let's say World Bank report on learning outcome, how there is a very poor learning outcome. This. So schools have been more termed as a midday meal school. This basically government schools. So then incentives, let's say even parents do not have motivation to send their children to government schools because they know that what are the conditions of government schools. This. And hence let's say that merely having a law will not address, even if education policy has been brought, that is also not going to address. Right. Rather you need to change the situation. The basic infrastructure should be changed. Let's say schools should have basic infrastructure, plus there should be more emphasis on quality of education in the school. Not merely, let's say, maintaining basically what we do in our schooling. In our schooling, we are trying to maintain more and more quantitative aspect of discipline. What is quantitative? Teacher should come on time. ठीक, अरे टीचर तो टाइम पे आ गया, पढ़ा रहा है कि नहीं? ठीक, you know there have been changes that nowadays in primary school, other schools, they do emphasize on discipline. तो discipline क्या है? Teacher should come at 7 o'clock, जो भी time, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You should not become late. So you go on time. Then this teachers are involved in lots of non-teaching activities. Teachers are involved in lots of non-teaching activities. The teachers have complained कि reduce our burden on non-teaching activities. Many a time they think whether they are teacher at all. Right. Because they are involved in election duty, census duty, campaign, various types of campaign. Even in Swachh Bharat mission, they were given duty to go and create awareness in your area. Anyhow, means this is what you can write various types of problems, especially let's say parents, children. Children should feel motivated to go to school, and they will feel motivated when you will find that schools have basic infrastructure. Whatever you teach, it has its relevance, and there is teacher-taught relationship maintained. That is what it demands more and more foundational learning, right? Comprehensive, continuous learning, let's say, system, which some of the states have introduced, like say Rajasthan, like say Kerala. And also let's say this present new, the education policy 2020 also emphasizes on foundation learning 5 plus, 3 plus 4 model. This, but more importantly, the focus should be on improving the infrastructure. Unless we improve infrastructure, even if we adopt whatever the law, it will not bring change. For instance, National Education Policy 1986 promised for 6% GDP should be spent on education. And National Policy of Education 2020 promises that 6% of GDP should be spent on education. Right. So as if we are still in, because in actual practice our expenditure on education is around 4%, which is among the lowest even among the neighboring country. Like say Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have more percentage of, let's say, that GDP on education than what we have. This we can say. So that is how towards end you can write some positive things. Government has taken in recent times initiatives, especially related to digitalization of education. So some initiative related to digitalization that can be mentioned to give some positive aspects. I guess it is, yes. So a current question, that is how the only current question we can consider. So you know about this, it is I2, U2, so basics, right? No need to talk on this. How it has evolved, these all aspects. Then last question is related to this energy, clean energy. Order of the day. So you can write some related to clean energy, how there is emphasis on clean energy, that part should be written. And thereafter you should write how there is change in Indian strategy. So there was a time when there was a credit-based system, Kyoto Protocol, etc. Then you know Paris climate change and how there was a drastic change in the strategy, let's say. India also became very proactive. And let's say but treatment, India, let's say that US gave emphasis on this, that you should have, let's also take, means we should take, means developing countries should also take but share of this pollution and other things, climate change, and US withdrew from that. But India, let's say, India was the country, even China also, let's say, how Paris climate change, and they become, let's say, the lead country in terms of taking measures, and India has taken measures at domestic level, how to minimize, etc. And there are some facts, targets, etc. That is how we can say that we want to minimize by 2070 we want to meet 50% of our electricity needs with renewable energy source. Right. Anyhow, no, it is related to net zero emission by this and 50% by 2030. So there are some factual aspects, that some steps taken that you can write. Then geopolitical scenario. So how geopolitical scenario? So there was a time when in geopolitical scenario terrorism used to be a common subject. Now in geopolitical scenario, let's say climate change has become a common subject. Any such, let's say, multilateral platform you have, even World Economic Forum. So when Modi ji last time before COVID he attended, he brought environment and sustainable development. Similarly, let's say that this we have I2, U2, there also climate change and clean energy, and UAE has promised to open, let's say, some renewable energy, let's say plants in Gujarat, that you can find. Similarly, BRICS you can take, G20 countries you can say that. So several platforms, etc., where find India is also a very vocal country for practicing clean energy, renewable energy, and we have been also indigenizing in our country the production of renewable energy, let's say sources and other, appliances and others to reduce import burden also will find. So these things can be written, that is how you should write geopolitical scenario. Simply towards end also you can write it is because of energy is the one driving force and there is increased competition. The increased competition among the different countries, you can say ki how energy you can say that ki how Russia and Europe relationship and on energy, let's say, so that has forced France and UK to agree for nuclear power plant and going for more, let's say, increasing production of nuclear energy. So somehow energy, let's say that ki competition, rivalry at global level, it is also forcing the countries to find alternative. Right. And that one alternative is also going towards renewable energy. And that is how it is also, let's say, that new, let's say, driving force of geopolitical scenario or relations. And that is how I should write on this. So this is what we can tell, I guess. It is the last question. So basically, since there is no any new such trend, we can say this is how it is. Largely, you will find that it is as per what the trend they have in past, that questions they have asked. Some questions they demand analytical answer, and that will certainly demand that you should have a bit depth of understanding. Some questions do not demand depth, but they demand factual knowledge. A very specific factual knowledge, like say disqualification, case laws, right? So that kind of thing. And some yes, questions are simple, that yes, that 18%, 20%, nature of questions are simple. Now, one question generally they ask in 15 mark where you lack content. This is also a trend we find, like this year France and India. Before that they had asked Attorney General. How much you can write on Attorney General? Even if it is a simple question. Now you have to make it, right, generate content by unnecessary writing. Right? So that way you will find that this is how. But overall, let's say it's not about that whether you write each answer with perfection. Rather, it is seen overall, let's say, performance in 20 questions. This you should know. Means all answers we don't have to give equal emphasis, uniform focus. That also shows. Some questions are a bit complex. They will take time in structuring and writing. So you should give time. Some questions you lack content. France and India, president election, you know you do not have content. Unnecessary, you cannot give the same number of time on that question. And some question demand you should write some good facts. It will demand a bit of thinking and planning. What facts I should write, what facts I should not write. So generally what students do, we find that they have a uniform approach, difficult question, simple question and critical question, same approach they write. What? They start with points. Somewhere we have also found one candidate came and he said, sir, since I did not write in point, my marks has been deducted in any institute, let's say. So I told how it can be. UPSC does not say that ki write in points. Points become very obvious to write. But then some question demand analysis also. It is very natural. And same uniform pattern you cannot adopt to write all questions. You can see all these questions. So that is what you have to understand, and that is how you should have variations in your answer. So when answers have variations, then examiner also understand that you are not mechanical. You take intelligent decision. Where time demands, you give. Where time does not demand, you have less content, you write less content. Where you demand more, after all, examiner, how will come your strength and weakness? This, and that is how unnecessary writing, irrelevant content is not going to fetch marks. This you can say, and that is how the strategy should follow. So we'll finish here. All the best.
The first step towards achieving your dreams is having the right coach. Get the best education with Lukmaan IAS and make your UPSC dreams come true. Download the app now.